All right, so you see how I staggered them? You do that to make sure that they bake evenly. And now I'm gonna get them into our 325-degree oven so we can bake. All right, 6 to 8 minutes. Okay, here they are. Beautiful golden brown edges. Let's see how big they are. They're huge. All right, you don't want, I mean, that's fine if you want a big cookie, but I prefer them when they're small wafers, like in our video that we saw about the old colony Benne Wafers. We want them a bit smaller. So I have got to remember either to find my teaspoon ice cream scooper at home, or remember to bring in some piping bags so we can pipe the dough onto the cookie sheet and make them much smaller. So these are great. They're gonna have to cool. And so I'll keep them and we'll compare and see which size we like better. Now, whenever you're writing a recipe too, you gotta know the yield. So people know how many this makes. So we have to keep track of how many cookies we're getting. And on this sheet pan, we have 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 for this half sheet pan, and we'll see how many we get out of the others. All right, so this morning I remembered my smaller cookie scoop from home. This is the one that we have in the school, and this is a tablespoon size cookie scoop. And see how big that cookie is? Now, that is fine if you're having a chocolate chip cookie, but the sesame wafer is much better when it's smaller. So this is my teaspoon cookie scoop from home. You can see the difference, all right? Now, a teaspoon is 1/3 the size of a tablespoon. So that means there are 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon. So we want a much smaller cookie, so I'm gonna scoop these. Now, another thing, I'm looking at the dough, and after tasting the cookie yesterday, there are a lot of sesame seeds. Now, when I made this last year, and we used it for the Superintendent Student Council meeting catering goodie bag, I made small ones, and we made the recipe. Everybody loved it, and but the thing was is that I don't think I realized how many sesame seeds are in there. And sesame seeds are not overly expensive because I got them at this Dual Indian grocery store. But if you buy sesame seeds in Key Food, like this one, this I bought in Key Food, this is very expensive. So I can't remember exactly the price, but the price is right here for this. This is $5.50 for a pound, so that's not too bad. But if you're buying it in the regular grocery store, this is 3 3/4 ounces, and this was probably $6. So you can see how expensive that is. And we want to save money whenever we can, economically. If we were running our own business and this is one of our products, if it doesn't make a difference in the taste, why have an excess amount of the most inexpensive ingredient in your product? You have to cut costs where you can to save it for other things like labor, rent, insurance, overhead, all of these things. So when you're making a recipe, and also if you're making the recipe for someone at home, the normal person at home doesn't have a lot of money to waste either on their ingredients, so let's keep the costs down. So I think I'm gonna change this for future from 1 2/3 cups to 1 1/2 cups. Now that's not a drastic change, but it's a small one, and I don't think it will change the actual overall taste of the cookie at all. So that's what I'll do if I make this recipe again. I'm sorry. When I make this recipe again, because I actually do love it, I will make it. I'm gonna reduce it to 1 1/2 cups. All right, so now I have my cookie scoop. Now this dough, you can see, I just took it out of the refrigerator. It's firm. It's a little too hard to scoop. I'm gonna have to let it sit out and come to room temperature and soften a bit so that I can scoop it easily. If you don't and you try to force yourself to scoop it now, you're putting way too much pressure on your wrist and your thumb right here. So I can tell you about that because I have something that's called chronic Dürker veins, which is a tearing of the tendon right there, okay? It's something tennis players also get. A Wimbledon player had this chronic Dürker veins and no longer play her tennis anymore. And it's something that pastry chefs tend to get because you're using this tendon right here over and over to do this action, cookie scooping, all of this stuff. So if it's this hard, don't hurt your wrist and do it. Wait till it softens up and it's looser and then scoop it easily, okay? You have to remember to take care of your body in order to continue working, all right? So I did not when I was younger, and I ended up having to wear a brace on my right hand for 2 years. So please do take it seriously. I did develop my left hand, so I can make a gingerbread house with my left hand. So at least I have that skill. But I'd rather not have been in the pain for 2 years and wearing a brace. So please take my word when I recommend something, all right? Thank you. All right, so here are the 3 different sizes. This came from the tablespoon cookie scoop. This came from the teaspoon cookie scoop, and this is from a piping bag. Now, this is the size that I really like if you're gonna do like a gift bag or a goodie bag. This one is fine. This one I think is a little too big. But how do we get something that's small consistently? Well, you can use a pastry piping bag, and if you don't have that, which I don't have, we can use a Ziploc bag. So how do we do that? We're gonna fill the Ziploc bag with our batter, and then I'm gonna cut off a little tiny bit of the tip, and I'll use this as a piping bag, and I'm gonna squeeze out the dough and make small little mounds that will hopefully bake this size, all right? All right, so now since I wanna get this size, I have this scoop. I'm gonna put it here, so that way I know you gotta make it smaller than this, okay? So this scoop yields that size cookie. And so here's my Ziploc bag. I've sealed the top, I've cut off a little bit on the bottom, and now I'm gonna wanna pipe something smaller than this to get that small size cookie. Okay, and that's probably the size that I should be able to get, that size. Okay, here we have all of our finished Benne Wafers. I'm going to bring some up to VO2 and share it with them. And here's the first batch that I made with the tablespoon measuring spoon, the second batch I made with the teaspoon measuring spoon, and then the third batch that I did with the piping bag to get a small, fine cookie. So to go over our recipe, we're going to do 1.5 cups of sesame seeds, 12 ounces of butter, 15 ounces or 2 1/4 cups of light brown sugar, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 9 ounces or 2 cups plus 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, if you recall, I was wondering, what's the yield? Well, now I've got a bit of a problem because I made 3 different sizes, so I can't really tell how many I got out of all of these, so I think I might just have to do the recipe again and pick a certain size and just make as many as I can out of that size, and then I can get the correct yield. Although I could say about so many. So I could sit here and count them all and figure it out and then come up with my yield. Or I could just make a whole nother batch and share it with some people who will be very happy, I'm sure. So this is our Charleston, South Carolina Benne Wafer, Benne meaning sesame seed, which is a symbol of good luck. So I hope you enjoyed it and are inspired to make these in your own kitchen. Thanks everybody, take care, bye-bye.